He is next on the chopping block of his reputation. I tell you, this is my 4th time trying to record this video. I don't have any overwhelming, groundbreaking news to give you, but I do have a few details that we need to talk about because let me tell you, something fishy is going on with Drake. If you are new here, come here, sit down, listen. We talk about celebrities here in order to see how they embarrass themselves and ruin their own lives so we don't make the same mistake. Anything that we talk about here, listen to it and apply it to your life, okay? I think the dates that I told you guys to keep an eye out on Drake were August 15th and 16th, and today is the 14th. We're going to be talking about the Leo Newman as well, but today we're talking about Drake, Chris Brown, Pusha T, Lil Yachty, and Bobby Antoff. I think that's how you say her name, the girl that did the podcast with Drake. So we have to acknowledge the elephant in the room, which is the overwhelming fatherhood PR push that we're seeing for Drake recently. And when I say recently, I mean all within the last week. Okay. So Drake posted this on Instagram, and the reason I'm laughing is because any woman that has a baby father or has maybe been adjacent to somebody who had the experience of having to deal with the biological father of their child, but like them not being fully present in their life, knows what this is. Listen, I don't fucking know Drake. Okay, I don't know what happens behind closed doors. I don't think he's father of the year personally, and I don't think I'm crazy to assume that, but this gives, like I see my child once a month to get the custodial rights, and so I don't have to pay child support, and so I get the public adoration of father of the year, just for being seen with my kid. I also do think it says something when, if you are with your child, everyone's like very shocked by it. Oh, Lil Yachty, his bestie, right, just jokes and says, "It's no way you're sitting here acting like you are braiding his hair for the internet." Which, listen, I get it's a joke. I get it's a jokey friend thing. However, I don't think it is a joke, and I think this is like an ain't shit contest because I don't think I'm insane to assume that both of these people are maybe not the most present, amazing fathers in the world, especially because I've seen Lil Yachty on Something Somewhere talk about like how he has and will never change a diaper in his life. Drake says, "I was unbraiding a bitch. Your son says you haven't seen him in 6 months. He needs Jordans, so he needs a backpack." Like, also not funny because who is suffering as the punchline? Both of their children. But it's okay. Don't worry. Drake got his son's name tattooed where he can't see it, just so he can't forget he has a son, but everybody can remind him he should be a father. I'm literally going in for no reason. I'm like joking, but I'm not joking. Okay, for some reason my green screen video isn't working, but the only other thing you need to know is that in the video that I just stitched, there was also a podcast with Lil Yachty and Drake where they're joking about how nobody on the face of the planet needs to know how much their child weighs, which is like highly debatable because most people usually memorize that fact, and it actually is like very crucial that you know your own baby's weight. And in that same podcast, Drake jokes and goes, "I don't know his weight, I know his name," which we hope so, and I think that tattoo will serve you good. So within the last few days, I think this was his LA show, he had Adonis at his show, he's singing to him, I don't know who's filming it. It feels performative, but I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, and Drake starts like smiling and like kind of like amping him up, like shaking his shoulders like, "Come on, like get into it," and his son isn't cracking a smile at all, which, does that have to mean anything? No, like he's a kid, he's probably also getting sensory overload, he's probably being shuffled around by a lot of adults this whole day. He has the big headphones on, it's loud. It doesn't have to mean he's not enjoying himself, but I do think that maybe there's something within that interaction. I would also just assume that like all of this is overwhelming for a kid. All of it. Like between life with mommy and daddy and this being the extreme contrast. Now, there was also another important person at his show that is worth noting. It's been a recent connection that he's made, and it was Bobby from, I believe it's called The Really Good Podcast. She's being funny, she's in character. People think that, okay, let me explain it. So Bobby and Drake unfollowed each other on Instagram, which again, does that have to mean the most, insane thing in the world? No, it doesn't. But she did remove the interview that she did with him, the podcast with him, off of her channel. Now, the reason that this is interesting to me is because the Bobby and Drake video was doing numbers, honey. I think the last time I saw it come up on my recommended, it was at like 8.9 million views, which is very lucrative for somebody who, if you know Bobby's story, is paying entirely out of pocket to have the success of her podcast unravel. Bobby has openly spoken about how she used to pay out of pocket to get guests on her podcast, and that it was a very productive way of not only like getting this podcast off the ground but also making friends, and how she's been paying literally for like every flight and going on all these podcasts, and people are like, bro, you're losing money, like you are big enough now to where you should be getting partnerships, and like the Today Show should be paying for your flight, etc. Okay, TikTok is being so annoying, so I don't know if I'm repeating myself, if this clip is in it or not, but I was trying to say that there's a big misconception around Bobby being like an industry plant, that her father did Drake's pool, and that Nev Schumann from Catfish was her neighbor and hooked her up with all these interviews, when in reality, based off of what she said most recently, she's bought her interview guests and she's been paying for all of her own things, and she's just been getting lucky in DMing people that follow her and getting them to just agree to be on the podcast. So to me, somebody who like openly mocks the fact that they're in a lot of debt and kind of like just riding this wave would delete like their most lucrative interview thus far, the thing that kind of made her make a name for herself. And that leads me to the conclusion that I think, based off of nothing but just trust me, bro, the context in my astrology predictions, I think Drake tried to sleep with Bobby. Listen, I said mid-August there was gonna be something shocking regarding Drake's career and reputation due to something that had to do with women, sex, relationships overlapping with money and family. Now, this is the thing. I know that I'm gonna get comments usually from men, but sometimes from women. Drake would never sleep with her. She is not his type. I have a video that I made back in November of 2022 that states rappers do not have a type, and they will and have slept with literally everybody, and especially because Bobby is not what you're imagining, like this IG horror model type. That's exactly why she would be fetishized, especially because it's this little white girl coming into the scene of like podcasts with black rappers. Like, you don't understand. I guarantee she's being targeted right now, especially too because she is a married woman with a child, with a baby, and this is something that people within that realm, like, of fame and success, like, they get off to taking a normal girl and like turning her out type of thing. Again, I'm literally just going off the fumes and the vibes of what I'm seeing, but the reason, like, I'm like, hello, this girl wants to be famous, she wants to be successful, she wants to make a lot of money. She said her goal, the thing that is driving her, is I can make a lot of money off of this. Why would she sever her most, like, her strongest, most iconic connection within building her name for herself, other than if it was putting, like, her family and her husband, her marriage at risk? Come on. And that's smart of the girl to unfollow her and get people talking. She's being so smart. But if the Bobby thing has nothing to do with it and you're like, Kayla, bitch, you're crazy. The reason I mentioned the other names, first of all, Bobby, if you're listening to this somehow, DM me on Instagram. I need to give you a birth chart reading. Like, I'm so fucking curious. Obviously, I would do it for free, honey, especially because I know you're in debt. 2, Drake, you don't need a lawyer. You need an astrologer to guide you, for Christ's sake. And Liliati, I emailed your team months ago and I'm still waiting to hear back. You bitches literally tag Bobby. Like, I want to read for her so bad. Now, the reason I mentioned Pusha T and Chris Brown at the beginning of this reading in regards to Drake, I'm not sure if anyone on Twitter has been seeing this. There's like an overwhelming influx of bots that are saying horrific, heinous, disgusting things about Pusha T. If you don't know who Pusha T is, he was the rapper that essentially bullied Drake into being a father through a very like meticulous and specific, directly about Drake diss that, you know, mentions the fact that he's confused about his own race, that he isn't like a present father, that he has a baby mother who used to be a corn star, but they cleaned her up and made her look like very presentable. So the things that the bots are saying about Pusha T, and when I say bots, what this looks like on Twitter is accounts that have usually been bought by somebody who isn't on your side, doesn't think fondly of you, or doesn't want others to think fondly of you. And it's these you know, pre-purchased timed tweets that go out like clockwork, like they're automated. They're not real people. They look like real people behind the accounts, like it'll be, you know, Amanda X3 or something, and like a picture of a girl, but all the tweets will just be these automated tweets about Pusha T that are horrific. They're saying that he is an aisle They are including other rappers' names and saying that he sleeps with them. And bots are like a common thing with celebrity culture. However, I'm wondering if it overlaps with what's going on with Drake for whatever reason. I don't know if he has more dirt on Drake or something like that. And this is like a warning shot or like a threat or something. Drake, Chris Brown, and Pusha T are all Leo risings with a 22-degree or 23-degree Taurus placement in their 10th house of career. So they're all getting hit by Uranus, but Pusha T specifically the hardest. When I tweeted about this, I got quoted 246 times by specifically Pusha T bots.